Thank you, Cliffy. Good morning and welcome into the program. This first segment of the show brought to you by Miller Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Route 9 east of Martinsburg, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. Good morning, Davey.
Hey, good morning to you. Wasn't it nice to get 2 days of sunshine before it comes back again?
It was nice.
Yeah, we're soggy again today.
Worked outside and was wet from sweat as opposed to rain this weekend, so that was kind of nice.
Yeah, and I hear this is just a standalone event one day.
Yeah, for the most part, we're looking at pretty good weather for next week or so.
Yeah.
I think everything's pretty cool. I want to welcome in all of our listeners on FM 106.5, AM 740, online at talkradiowrnr.com, and also on Comcast TV 10 here in Berkeley and in Jefferson County as well. And our YouTube viewers and on the delayed basis too. I want to welcome you into the show, and remember that you can check out our show on the audio replay after usually about 10:30, 10:45. I have it posted on our website, talkradiowrnr.com. You can link to it right off of our WRNR AM 740 FM 106.5 Facebook page. And then you can also, as I said before, check it out on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, put in WRNR TV. Make sure you put in WRNR TV, because there is a WRNR in Annapolis, Maryland, that many years ago, previous owner of this radio station, Rick Wachtel, deferred the rights to the FM WRNR to another entity, not knowing later on he would also develop an FM channel on 106.5.
We give you no excuses to ignore us. I mean, you cannot ignore this show. It's on all the time, anytime you want.
We're here to bother you. It's really that simple.
And we do that as a public service to the good people of the Eastern Panhandle.
Big thanks to our producer, Sherry Dieter Davis, who is our call screener and overall producer and does a magnificent job helping us coordinate the entire 2 hours of what we do here each morning.
And who gave me a short briefing when I walked in the door today as to who our guests were today. They include Majority Leader Daryl Cowles
at 8:30, Sheriff Curtis Keller at 9, and it's time to eat pancakes, Davey. Mike Hite from Rotary is here back after the 9 o'clock hour for the big Memorial Day morning breakfast. And you go to that, I think. If I recall, you and Mr. Hornby ate pancakes together last year.
No, I did not go to that, actually.
Oh, he was bragging to me yesterday that you and he were eating pancakes together.
Maybe I did. One year I know we were. Yeah, I think it was the year that we were broadcasting out there, actually. Could that have been it?
I don't know.
And I don't think we're doing that this year.
Yeah, I know. I've never done the Memorial Day morning broadcast. I've done the Labor Day one.
Oh, okay.
But I've never done the Memorial
I
Day.
might be confusing an earlier life then.
At least if I have, I don't recall doing it.
Well, yeah. Well, you're at that age now where you don't remember everything that happened a year ago.
I don't.
You know, that happens to me all the time where I know that we did something, you and I or Debbie and I or whoever. I know that something happened, but I can't remember. Was that a year ago or 2 years ago? Could be 4 years ago, but it seemed like last year. I don't know.
I will tell you that Memorial Day morning from 8 to 10, we will be off. However, there will be a Best of Rob and Dave that airs from 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. Memorial Day morning. Monday the 28th. There will be 2 hours of a best of made up of 6 7-minute segments per hour. So a total of 12 7-minute segments, allowing for news and commercials.
That have happened over what period of time?
From January 2.
So 2018, all in 2018.
It'll be the best of 2018.
Okay. Nice.
So teacher strike information will be reflected in there. Also, what was it called? Slipophobe?
Yes, right.
Slipophobia. That'll be represented in there, all the good stuff.
Maybe what we can do is, because Hite and Hornby are both big shots in the Rotary, maybe they can hook up the loudspeakers at the pancake breakfast and just play that during the entire 2 hours.
I'm sure everybody would just love that.
Yeah, I'm sure they would love that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I want to pass this along, too, a couple of things in terms of, we have some people who are going through some health issues who are elected or not just elected, but candidates to move along in primaries. And one of those folks who's elected is Pat McGeehan. And I want to bring in Delegate Mike Folk right now, who's joining us on the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line. I texted with Pat yesterday. Pat's doing great. Mike, good morning to you. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning.
I got a text from Pat yesterday that said he was allowed to shower yesterday. And those of you who have been in the hospital for a while and you're going through some stuff, and they tell you that first time that you get to shower, it's like the greatest moment of your life at that time. It's that island that you can swim to when you think you're drowning in the ocean. That's what a shower is when you've been in the hospital for a while and you haven't been able to. I've been there. I went through it 2 years ago. Pat, who went through some serious heart surgery, was allowed to shower yesterday. He put that in his text to me with a smiley face. Mike, I don't know if you've spoken with Pat in the last 24 to 48 hours or not, but it seems like things are going pretty good for the delegate from District 1.
Yes, I know his mom was concerned at one point. She texted me throughout the whole pre-op and during the operation and then post-op. And then the operation itself went very well. Pat had a genetic heart defect that he had to take care of. He had to have this surgery for over a year. Probably the reason he didn't get it done last summer was pretty much the special sessions. He's very committed to being, when he's in the legislature, doing the best he can. And so the post-op, he was bleeding a lot more than what was normal. At least that's the text I got at the mom. She was very concerned about his blood pressure being low, too. But I guess they found the problem and cleared it up, and he's on his way. He might be coming home today, he says.
That is great to hear.
Good to hear, yeah.
Got a text also from Kevin Bolin yesterday. He defeated Tom Bibby in the Republican primary to succeed John Overington, and Kevin's surgery is coming up in June. That has not been scheduled yet. You know that Kevin was going through some health issues as well. We're going to talk to Kevin on the radio at some point in the near future too. So all the best to both of those men who are, they put it out there. They ran for office. That's not an easy thing to do, and they're encountering health issues as well. Pat, of course, already elected. So all the best of prayers to both of those gentlemen.
Yep, he's on his way to being as you said, I think within 24 hours or so of the surgery, he was already doing walking laps around the floor he was on.
Pat, you're talking about?
Yeah, Pat.
Yeah, that's right.
And Mike, that surgery took place in Cleveland, is that correct?
Yes, at the Cleveland Clinic. He was probably in the best place in the world to have heart surgery.
Yeah, at least by reputation, they are top of their game when it comes to that.
Yeah. In fact, his condition went undetected through several. I think he went to a hospital in Pittsburgh. They didn't know what it was. He went to a VA hospital. I think he started with the VA, and went to Pittsburgh, and they didn't see anything wrong with him. They said he was just out of shape, and he said, "No, I can't." I mean, he was he was an Air Force Academy guy, so he was used to doing running and stuff, and he couldn't run anymore. He was getting out of breath within 20 yards. And then it got so bad last year he couldn't hardly walk up steps without having to take a break.
Mike, what makes Pat? Usually, when we talk about state legislators, we're only talking about those who live here in the our listening area, the Eastern Panhandle. What elevates Pat McGee into a status of being interesting statewide? Why is he important in the legislature?
First of all, he's very influential.
And that's the reason I'm asking. Where does that influence stem from? What is all that about?
Well, a lot of it's his principles, his background, his military intelligence. He knows how to evaluate situations. He's a stoic. He practices stoicism. He's written 3 books. One strictly on economics, one on liberty and economics both, and then one on practice of stoicism and how it applies in the legislature.
So he's respected by everyone in the legislature for his principles and his leadership, whether you agree with him or not. It seems to me that he's risen to a level of when he talks or expresses his viewpoints on any issue, people really do listen. Yeah,
and because he does it. Him and I sometimes he's a little bit. I'm trying to adopt some of his Stoic principles, but he's much more influential from doing it from the Stoic perspective and logic also, and a lot of it's philosophical, whereas I get down to the nuts and bolts and the policy. And I just had a conversation from a delegate from his district that's from the other side of the aisle, not in his district, but up in his area, up in the Northern Panhandle. Showed the stereo yesterday. I'll give you an example. One of the groups up there that normally endorse Democrats endorse Pat because of Pat's principles.
What group would that be, Mike?
It's one of the unions up there.
Interesting. Well, Pat used to run a plant. If I remember, he was a manufacturer of a product.
Yeah, he actually did recycling for boxes and stuff until the 08 debacle, and when he lost his business.
Mike, what is a stoic?
Wow, I guess you need to read Pat's book to get a good idea of it, but it's basically self-control, learning to. It's kind of the old philosophy about knowing what you can control and what you can't control, and keeping your head about you.
So is it a lifestyle kind of thing?
Oh yeah, it's a lifestyle, and Pat's really good at practicing it. I mean, it helped him. For instance, Pat doesn't drink at all, and which is a lot of people. I know Rob's a Catholic, and well, actually, I guess they're both Catholics.
Yes.
Catholics like to drink a little wine every once in a while, so he's a Catholic, but he doesn't drink, which is probably a little unique, I guess you could say. That's just one example.
Interesting. In terms of their lifestyle, is it related to like a minimalist at all in terms of how they live, or is that completely separate?
He doesn't dwell on material issues, if that's what you're referring to.
Okay, well, just not a question that I don't think
Cato, in his book about Stoicism, it's called Stoicism in the State House.
Yeah, we have
He gives about a 60-page, and you've probably read it by now. And he gives the history of Cato, which Cato was Julius Caesar's political enemy, I guess you could say. Whereas, they both served in the Roman Senate, and Cato was, like I said, his nemesis in the Senate, and he was very well respected. I guess Cato's story, of course, the Cato Institute is named after Cato.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty influential person historically.
This is the first time that I think that I've had a chance to speak with you, Mike, since the primary, and obviously now you are in a bona fide, official, acknowledged general election race with the incumbent Senator John Unger. And I know we're still 6 months out, but just kind of curious as to what you're doing to start laying the groundwork for a competitive campaign against the incumbent John Unger.
Well, of course, I've got a little bit of got to catch up a little bit on the fundraising compared to him, because he's got pretty good bank left over from his previous election. In the current fundraising, he got me about a little bit, but not about a lot. So I just have to make up some ground, and of course, I've never been in an election for the most part, except for maybe the last one, where I haven't been outspent by a multiple of at least 2-1. So that's not as big of an issue in my mind, as long as I can, as you say, show in the fundraising part. I don't need to outraise him. I just need to outwork him, and that's what I've in general done.
When you look at this race strategically, obviously you've got to go into a lot of areas where you're not as known as you are in the 63rd Delegate District. You've got to go outside of your district. You've got to even go into Jefferson County. How difficult of a challenge is that, running against someone who's been representing the district for 20 years? Is there a strategy, not to reveal on the radio every element of your strategy, but more or less, can you give us an overview of what you see as your biggest challenge right now in getting into a campaign that by November is a competitive race?
Well, first of all, I think I'm fairly well known in the Panhandle, even in Jefferson County, very well known. I went to Shepherd College. Grew up in a church in Shepherdstown. I was involved in 4-H, so a lot of people know me from 4-H. And then agriculture community, I'm very well known for my dad's business. I worked for my dad's business for 10 or 15 years. And so we provide services to a lot of farmers in Jefferson County, so I have a good first name. I know a lot of farmers on a first name basis. We got married in Charlestown at St. James, my wife and I. So I have a lot of relationships down there through athletics too, both in high school and college both, and also as a wrestling official.
When you look at this,
10 years.
when you look at this campaign, obviously there is a lot of. You talked about money earlier. Money's important in any campaign, not just because of the money, but because you need to buy the mailers, you need to buy the radio time, the TV cable time, or whatever you do in a campaign to advocate your message and contrast it with your opponent. So, how much do you think this race will cost to run between now and November? Do you have an idea about that?
I've got a number in my head, but I'm not going to reveal that number.
Also,
I don't need as much as John already has. I'll put it that way.
Why is that, Mike?
Well, but for one thing, I have a lot of people, grassroots support, I think, and some in both, in all facets of the electorate. I mean, Republicans, Democrats, unaffiliated, independent type people. Who support me for various reasons. A lot of it's because of how I've operated in the legislature.
One of the things that I would see that you need to overcome, because over the years you've developed sort of a firebrand style, sometimes controversial stands that you take. You're not afraid to sort of punch and counterpunch along the way. You've got a record that indicates that you're a fighter. And people who like you say, hey, that Mike Folk is a fighter, he's fighting for what I believe in. But there's a number of people out there who think sometimes you can be also abrasive, too. Are you going to address that in your campaign and be a kinder, gentler Mike Folk, or are you going to go with the style and the brand that's brought you this far so far?
First of all, I've learned a lot being in the legislature for 6 years, and I've gotten respected for my ideas and having influence through my ideas and my research. And I think that takes you a long way instead of being just a collectivist attitude, which they're a collectivist on both sides of the aisle.
One thing for sure, it's going to be one of the top Senate races in the state, Rob, I would think, just given the fact that you've got two very successful public figures running against each other. So we'll be watching that very closely over the next 6 months.
Mike, what has happened with the Tally Reid situation since the election? Since she lost, it just went off the radar screen, and everybody at that point said, well, it's not a big deal anymore because it's no longer a factor. Do you know, is there still any type of investigation going on there?
I believe there is.
That comes straight from the Secretary of State's office, the investigation, or is it still being proposed to the courts by the attorney that was working with that?
Well, I mean, if you tried to bring up the issue now with the courts since Tally lost, they would probably declare it a moot point because they'd already punted twice, so they didn't really want to get involved in it. But there's still several issues at hand with the. But I'm privy to some information, and I think there's still an investigation going on.
But I mean, I think you asked the right question here. I mean, why would anybody, even the courts, care at this point? The fact is that she lost the primary, so I can't imagine that there's anything here that would be worth pursuing. It seems just preposterous to me.
Well, I mean, when somebody says they live one place and they live another place, that and they swear in their filing under oath that they live someplace, that's a problem.
So you still think this is an important issue then, even though it's been sort of settled by the voters, you still think it's important?
It's important if you're going to have people be required to show ID when they go vote, shouldn't you have candidates, and this will be something that, if I'm lucky enough to get elected, even if I'm not, somebody will introduce the bill for me, and we need to make the same kind of requirement. If we expect people to say they're, eligible to vote and they are who they say they are, then shouldn't we also expect our candidates to actually live where they say they live?
Well, I mean, I think you make a good point there, Mike. So it's not just so much about this one situation. You want to make sure that it doesn't happen again, or that there are safeguards to prevent something like this happening again in the future. Proof of residency.
Yeah, I mean, I give you one example in the current, what happened recently is that although it was within and this was actually said in the court by the Secretary of State's office attorney, even though it's within their purview to do something, they had the discretion to do it or not. And we need to make it to where, no, you need to, just like part of this voter ID, you need to verify these people's, that they're eligible to vote. We need to also verify that these people are eligible to run in the district they want to run in. Especially if there's multiple people through emails, letters, etc., that send stuff to the Secretary of State office saying, hey, this person doesn't live here.
So how
hasn't lived here long enough, or hasn't lived here long.
Yeah, okay.
Mike, thank you for your time this morning. If you do talk to Pat today, send along our well wishes. I'm going to give him a call fairly soon myself. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, I'll probably talk to him later today. I'm actually pulled off the road here outside of Buckhannon to talk to you, so I didn't lose the signal.
Appreciate that, too. Plus, it's safer to drive that way, too. Thank you, Michael.
You all have a great day.
Delegate Mike Folk on the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line. And we've got the House Majority Leader Daryl Cowles joining us out of the news break. And Amy Peters from the Pizza Oven. And Sherry tells me she's got a gift for us, Dave, too.
Nice.
I can smell it from here, I think. Could be pizza.
Could be. We'll be in line.
It's 8:31, and our news break is coming up next.
I've seen the fire of a woman's scorn turn her heart of gold to steel.
CBS News Update. About 24 reporters have arrived in North Korea for a lengthy trek to the country's nuclear testing site. They've been told they'll witness its destruction. CBS's Ben Tracy is the only U.S. broadcast network news reporter there.
I'm a journalist, but I'm not an expert on nuclear test sites. So what they're doing to me, I can't tell you legitimately if that's a formal closure of a nuclear test site. And I asked our guide, are they bringing in outside experts? Are there going to be nuclear scientists from other countries who will come witness this? And he said, no, there will just be the nuclear scientists from North Korea.
In Washington, President Trump meets with South Korean President Moon Jae-in via Skype. North Korea expert Daniel Pinkston says the two men will discuss next month's planned summit in Singapore.
We'll brief President Trump on his meetings with Kim Jong-un and his vision and strategy for pushing this process forward.
CBS News Update. I'm Deborah Rodriguez.
Now your local news from Talk Radio WRNR. Former Massey Energy CEO and current West Virginia Constitution Party member Don Blankenship has announced that he's accepted the nomination to become that party's West Virginia candidate for the United States Senate. Blankenship was nominated by unanimous vote. The Constitution Party is the nation's third largest political party in terms of its state affiliates' voter registration. Earlier this month, Blankenship placed third in the Republican primary for that same Senate seat. City of Martinsburg offices will be closed this coming Monday in observance of Memorial Day. Normal business hours resuming Tuesday. Monday's trash collection will be picked up on Tuesday, and Tuesday's trash will instead be picked up on Wednesday. Trash collection returning to its normal schedule next Thursday. Martinsburg High School's graduation will take place tonight at 7. Hedgesville's graduation will be tomorrow night at 7. Musselman's is 7 o'clock Thursday night, and Spring Mills High School's graduation will be next Tuesday night at 7. I'm Adam Boardman, Talk Radio WRNR News.
Scattered showers across Berkeley, Jefferson, and Morgan counties here this morning, and the frequency of showers will increase as we go through the morning into the afternoon. In fact, we may hear a little thunder with our showers here into the afternoon as a warm front crosses the area. Temperature highs getting up close to 80 degrees by the end of the day, and we'll see the showers coming to an end through the late afternoon, early evening period. Temperatures overnight only dropping off into the lower 60s, and with lots of sunshine developing tomorrow, we've got highs in the lower 80s. Thursday, more of the same, sunny, daytime high near 83 degrees. I'm Bob Kukin, Talk Radio WRNR.
Heroin addiction, overdoses, kids' futures at risk and growing up to become drug abusers. It's a national problem. Prevention can solve it, but where do we start? The Martinsburg Initiative is our police-school community partnership and model solution to this national problem. It's based on the science of adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, the traumatic experiences during childhood resulting in serious problems when they grow up. ACEs are caused by abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction, and they really matter. A child with 6 adverse childhood experiences is almost 50 times more likely to become a heroin user as an adult. A positive adult role model spending a few hours a month with a child can make the difference. A child with a mentor is 46% less likely to begin using illegal drugs. 46%. Mentors change lives. We need mentors. Change a life. Be a mentor. Call Project Director Tiffany Hendershot today at 304-267-3510. 304-267-3510.
Are you running a travel team, heading up a sports league, no time to manage the day-to-day operations? You need 10th Degree Technologies, an all-inclusive year-round sports league management company. They have everything you need from software to administrative support with no setup fees and no monthly fees. Stop the revolving door of volunteers that can stop your league or team's progress. Contact the professionals at 10th Degree Technologies, phone 304-901-4000, online at 10thdegreetech.com.
Hi, honey.
Where are you?
I've been in line at the post office for the last 30 minutes.
Why are you at the post office? It'll take you all day.
Where else do I go to ship my packages or drop FedEx off at?
Honey, going postal is way faster, has less lines, and friendly service.
Where's going postal?
It's right in the Commons Shopping Center in Martinsburg. They'll ship your packages quickly, and you can avoid the lines.
Going postal should be your first choice for all your shipping needs. Going postal, the Commons, Martinsburg.
When you do the same thing for 135 years, you learn to do it well. For 135 years, we've been helping families through the hardest times of their lives. That's because we're a family as well. When your family loses a loved one, we're here to help. We're Brown Funeral Home in Martinsburg, Inwood, and Charlestown, Ranson. We're here when you need us.
This segment of Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave is brought to you by L.A. Roberts Jewelers, committed to excellence in quality, design, and craftsmanship in historic downtown Martinsburg. Good morning, Davey.
Good morning to you. Hey, by the way, did you get the microphone modulated to the right level for the YouTube replays?
I don't know.
I did not check yesterday, so I don't know.
Yeah, there was some kind of technical issue with the posting, so I'm not sure if that was on my end or YouTube's end, but we'll find out at the end of the show today.
I did go back and listen to when we first started it. I guess maybe the first day we did it.
Totally overmodulated.
Was the day that my granddaughter Emily was on. Her microphone sounded fine. Yours and mine were a little bit.
Yeah, we've developed
fuzzy,
huskier radio voices at this time in our
right.
lives.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I hear, one of the things I hear from my wife around the house is, don't use your radio voice. I don't know what that means, but actually what she says, can you talk to me like you talk to people on the radio in 30-second sound bites? You don't have to explain everything.
Do you mansplain to your wife?
Do I mansplain?
Yeah. That's explaining things to your wife that she already knows, but you do it because you think she doesn't? Because she's a woman?
Yes, I do that.
So I can see you're definitely a mansplainer.
I do that, yeah. I'm a mansplainer.
They had a special session yesterday in Charleston, and the House Majority Leader is Daryl Cowles. He joins us now on the WVU Medicine Jefferson Medical Center talk line. D.C., good morning to you, sir.
Hey, good morning, Rob. Good morning, Dave.
Hey, good morning to you. Did you watch the Caps game last night?
You know, I flipped by it a couple times, and they were up 2-0 when I flipped by, so I think they won, didn't they?
They did win. Yeah, they got for the first time I think ever. They're going to play a game number 7, and if they win, they will go to the finals, the Stanley Cup finals.
Yeah, that's big for them.
Yeah.
There was a basketball game on last night too, so it was you had your choices of games to watch.
Okay, here's the question I really want to ask you: did you get up Saturday morning and watch the royal wedding?
I did not. I missed it. But
22 million viewers.
29 million.
I was not one of those viewers, by the way.
Well, I'll confess to being the unmanly guy around here. I got up and watched it.
It wasn't a manly thing at all. I totally forgot about it.
Yeah. I think there was sort of I think a lot of guys felt it would be unmanly to get up and watch the royal wedding.
Joe Ferretti did call you out, though, on Friday. He said if you get up to watch the wedding, check your man card at the door.
Yeah, he did, yeah. And Phil kind of called me out a little bit yesterday because I went overboard with the breakfast and the mimosas. and all of that. So yeah.
And your slippers too. There.
And definitely my slippers.
There it is.
Definitely have my slippers.
There's
on.
the slipper thing again, Dave.
Yeah.
Daryl, what was your vote on slippers? Yes, slippers or no slippers? Do you wear them or not?
I'm a no slippers.
Oh, so you're in my camp.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're set. So me and Daryl, no slippers, no watching the royal wedding. You, slippers, watch the royal wedding.
Well, I mean, that just tells you that I'm a well-rounded, mature guy. Or I'm confident in my own skin, and I'm not insecure.
Or tells us that you wear slippers and watch the royal wedding.
That's all it tells you.
And drink mimosas.
So, Daryl, what happened with this cannabis bill down there? It got introduced, and you guys, sent it off to a committee and aren't going to take that up? Is that right?
Yeah. The quick story is pretty much nothing happened with it. So it didn't fit. It's not constitutional to deal with it. And if it's not ready for prime time, even if there was some way we could get it on the agenda. So it just no action on that issue down here.
Just one of those things you've got to save for the regular session when you go back in after the first of the year, and because you got to deal with it at some point in time, I would imagine, don't you? The banking part of this.
I don't know that we have to deal with it. I think the bigger issue is, what the U.S. government's doing right now. It's the U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions has said, hey, it's against the law for these things, and the U.S. Attorney here in West Virginia says, hey, it's against the law, and we plan to enforce the law and money laundering laws, and I think the bankers have gotten really nervous about it. So I'm not sure. I think there's a little disagreement as to whether or not we can carve out some state law that says we don't apply to federal law on this banking issue to a degree that will satisfy the bankers. So, what the preferable thing to happen would be that Congress steps up and does whatever they need to do to say whether it is or is not legal.
Is it? I'm sorry. Is it possible though, Daryl, that the people who are against medical marijuana and were against medical marijuana, and frankly I don't remember where you were on that issue. So, but is it possible that this could be a way for them to sort of kill the whole thing and not let it go forward at all?
I don't think so. I think medical marijuana can be used in West Virginia. It's going to be law in about a year, Dave. We passed that law. It's going to be in effect in July of 2019. It just won't be able to be a huge, big marijuana business because it's going to be a cash business, it seems like. So, but as a cash business, I think you can get a lot. It's not like it's going to be covered by your insurance anyway. So, I think the law is still going to go into effect in about a year.
So you've got three days of special session, Daryl. What are your personal priorities, and what are your priorities as the majority leader of the Republican caucus?
Well, we've made quick work of the special session. We finished up last night.
Oh, okay. You're done.
Passed our 8 bills, and there were most of them were technical corrections, but there were a couple changes. The fire and EMS bill, it's a $100,000 survivor benefit that we passed and made retroactive to help out the Pratt volunteer firefighters that died in an accident not long ago. So we got them covered underneath of it, and made some changes to the Division of Culture and History. So nothing major, but we had 8 bills on the session we had to deal with.
I was interested in following this reestablishment of the Division of Culture and History as the Department of Arts, Culture, and History. And I think some people are confused by that because it was kind of eliminated, I guess, last year in the whole budget situation, and now you're bringing it back. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I can. That's the talking point for the left is that we're bringing it back, but generally what we're doing is trying to address some of their concern. We're not bringing back that whole level of bureaucracy. We've still eliminated that extra layer from the top, still saving a couple $1 million overall. But what we're doing is we're reconnecting the Department of Arts, Culture, and History with a direct line to the executive. So that new curator position will have a direct line right to the governor, and as a way to make sure the arts are still promoted in West Virginia. So it doesn't create that level of bureaucracy that we work so hard to get eliminated. It just connects those two back together in case there's, good things can happen whenever you have the curator directly linked to the governor without an intermediary or an extra layer in there. So I still feel good about it. It's still a savings and a streamlining of government, from my view.
Now, you represent, obviously, a county in which there are probably more arts, culture activists than there are in most counties. And did you hear from this community when you came back home last time that you were opposed to the arts and culture in West Virginia?
I did. I didn't hear that I was opposed to the arts and culture in West Virginia, but change is never easy. It makes people nervous. So, I did hear from them, and some people expressed their concerns, and I think this is a good way to try to address that we're not setting aside arts in West Virginia. It's going to have a direct line to the executive branch, to the governor, and have a seat at the table. But we're going to try to eliminate unnecessary layers of bureaucracy, and that's what we did, and tried to reconnect it at the same time. So.
Daryl Cowles, House Majority Leader, is our guest here on Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave, courtesy of the WVU Medicine Jefferson Medical Center Talk Line. Daryl, real quick before we let you go, can you tell us what's going on with the Berkeley Springs bypass? Where is that project? I saw another interview with Jeannie Mosher yesterday in which she stated she was adamantly opposed to that being built, felt it would be the death of Berkeley Springs basically as a town. And she, in the article I saw on Russell Mokaber's Morgan County USA website, it also mentioned Senator Trump, once he finally looked at the bill, said this is not a good bill for Berkeley Springs, the way the bypass bill is written. Where is that?
Well, actually, it's not a bill. It's a
project,
a road project there in Morgan County that goes around Berkeley Springs, and Jeannie is probably in a minority that she flat out opposes the improvement, but it's a $65 million highway upgrade in Morgan County, and but there is legitimate concern about how old 522 and new 522 are blended together. Can you stay on old 522 and drive into town, or do you have to get on the new part of the road before you exit and come back into town? So there are legitimate concerns that I think Senator Trump and I are going to try to facilitate with a group of the Chamber of Commerce to try to see if we can get that addressed, to have a little better flow into Berkeley Springs if you wanted to take the old road. But yeah, generally I think the upgrade is supported by the people of Morgan County. In fact, we had the vote in the bond referendum. You know, as you know, it passed quite overwhelmingly in Morgan County, 60-40, I think it was. Mm-hmm. So, and everyone knew that the bypass was a big part of that. So,
do you know when that would start, if it was indeed finished and perfected?
Yeah, we had a workshop, public workshop from the Department of Highways a couple weeks ago, and they have this slated for, I think it was July of 2020 to start. So it's only a couple years away to get this project started, and the bond sale was yesterday for the state of West Virginia to get $800 million to put towards these infrastructure projects. So.
Oh, I didn't get to buy one, Dave. Did you?
No, I forgot all about it.
Did you buy any bonds?
No.
Daryl?
Oh, Daryl, did you buy any bonds?
No, I didn't buy any bonds, but you know, I can't hardly make a deposit into my savings.
Hey, Daryl, when you're coming on this bypass, when you're going, let's say you're going south, you're coming from Hancock, Maryland, you're going towards Winchester, Berkeley Springs, and where do you get off of Old 522? If there's any planning been done, where do you get off to take the bypass, and where do you get back on?
Yeah, it's actually just south of the sand mine.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's before you even get to town. You'll have the option to turn left and take a 4-lane highway as much as 65 miles an hour, a realignment of 522 close to town, but a 4-lane limited access highway right around Berkeley Springs to the south of town. So,
and where will you get back on then the current 522?
Well, you have 7 options to get off of the road and slide back down into Berkeley Springs as you go all along Berkeley Springs. And it's south of town, out past the new sheets, past the Dairy Queen, is where the new road and old road come back together.
I see. Okay, got it. I can visualize that.
Daryl, thanks so much. Go ahead.
No, it's a big deal for us. We got Kekapen State Park at $25 million, and this highway at $65 million, and and the natural gas line at $50 million. So there are big projects happening over in Morgan County right now.
You know, the big problem with doing that is that you're going to probably cut down on traffic tickets going through town, and that's income to the town of Bath. Wouldn't that be a problem?
Says the former town councilman from Bath, David Welch.
I don't know if fewer tickets is good for me, if you're asking.
Maybe he'll be able to make a deposit into a savings account, Dave. So
yeah,
that's
right,
not so
right.
bad. Daryl, thanks so much for your time this morning.
Good to talk to you guys.
House Majority Leader Daryl Cowles, he's got a meeting at 9 o'clock, and we are so happy that he was able to make some time for us at the end of a short special session that was carved out yesterday. All the delegates and such coming back today. Daryl has a meeting in Charleston today, so he will not be. I want to bring in my prop, which, by the way, my prop is not Amy Peters, but the pizza that she brought in this morning is the prop. Amy, good morning to you.
Good morning.
From the Pizza Oven, if your name sounds familiar, Dave, she was one of our, she and Tom, one of our sponsors, or Mark, I'm sorry, for election night. Tom, too.
Tom.
Yeah, look at there's. You can see Welch and I got into it a little
That's
bit
the
already.
other guy.
The other
That's
guy.
anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for bringing that in. There is a story. There is a story to this pizza.
There is.
Yeah, that will forever live in the annals of
It's documented
WRNR.
somewhere, I think,
Sure.
and yeah, there's photo proof.
There is, too.
The day that Rob, was it your first day in the hospital, or was it the day of your surgery?
It was the day I had to fast.
Oh, that's right. The day you had to fast, and you weren't in the station.
He was not.
You were not.
He was not here that day.
You came.
I thought I was doing something very nice.
Right, and you did. It was
used against
nice.
me in a way that I've had to repay now.
So I was eating pizza that you brought in, and I sent that picture to Rob.
Yep.
And he did not appreciate it very much at all.
Well, I appreciated the pizza.
It was just good guy humor.
But I thought Matt Miller, who is as nice a guy, from you, Welch, I expected as much. But Miller, who's as nice a guy as there is on the planet.
Absolutely.
The two of you posing with a pepperoni pizza, send it to me on a day when I'm not allowed to eat anything. I had to go like 40 hours without food, and then I get this picture of a pizza. And I thought about to myself, no, that's just guys being guys. Women wouldn't do that to me.
No, they would not. Absolutely, they would not.
Would not.
Because they're a nicer gender.
They do seem to care more about humanity than people like you and, say, Matt Miller did that day
That's right.
in particular.
That's why we need a woman president, right?
Well, and I have a confession, too, because I did not watch the Caps game, and I hear that during that conversation with Daryl that you did not mention at all Miss USA or American Idol.
Right.
Or,
those are big last night, too.
Yeah.
And I think The Voice is a pre-finale, whatever.
The vote ends for The Voice at noon today. Right, so it's
I
up to America. I have no idea what happened on Idol, but I do know that Miss Nebraska won Miss USA. It's the first time a Miss Nebraska has ever won.
She was beautiful. Yeah. That's what I watched. I did not watch the Caps game.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I went to bed early. I was tired.
I went to bed as well.
Had nothing to do with what time you have to get up.
Right.
So.
You know, I started watching last night a documentary on Netflix, which I really want to recommend. I watched the first 2 episodes. It's like 6 episodes, and it's Bobby Kennedy for president, and it's a great documentary on him running for president in 1968. Anyone interested in history of the 60s or history of the 20th century, just generally, it's
you have the shortest attention span known to man. Where in the world did we segue to 1968?
We were talking about what we watched on television last night.
He watched.
Instead of watching any of those things, I was telling you what I watched last
in
night.
the current decade.
I was watching what I was watching last night. I was merely sharing with you because I thought you were interested in my life.
No, I have no interest whatsoever.
But speaking of Netflix, have you watched the series called Ozark?
No.
Yes. Is Ozark the one where he goes down, he moves his family down because a mob guy is chasing him?
Yes, because he's laundering money. Yes.
Is that, have they done season 2 yet?
They have not. I think they're in the process of filming it now.
Okay.
But yeah, it's fantastic.
It is fantastic.
It's really
absolutely
good. I love
good.
Jason Bateman, and he's
love that
fantastic.
series.
He was good.
But we've waited a long time for season 2.
Well, wasn't season 1 filmed in Pittsburgh?
Do they have a big lake like that in Pittsburgh?
No, it was filmed on location, I think, in the Ozarks. Now, the Chicago part might have been done in Pittsburgh. Because remember, that's where they lived before they moved.
Because
that's a possibility.
They discontinued the filming in Pittsburgh, I know, after the first season. And they were searching for a new location, so maybe that's the reason for the delay.
I think what happens on some of these series is with Netflix, because they introduce them all at one time, when they release the 10 or the 13 or whatever it might be, and they don't know how well it's going to come off, so they introduce it, and then if it's a success, they've got to go back in and completely reproduce season 2 or season 3.
Yeah.
And so you wait a long time in between episodes. before they come back.
No. Well,
I might
mean,
lose.
are serious.
Did you watch the royal wedding?
I did.
Tom Johnson told me he was on 53 different channels. I just got a text from Tom. He said 53 different places.
I think I went back and forth on 2 different channels because one, they just talked about dumb stuff, and then the other one didn't talk enough, and so I was conflicted. But I did not wear slippers. So,
all right.
But I did watch it.
Non-slipper.
I think we watched the CBS broadcast. Is what we watched.
I switched back and forth. I think it was between the Today Show and Fox. So I was kind of back and forth between the two.
Amy Peters is with the Pizza Oven in the south end of the county and famous for Christmas time with the big South Berkeley celebration around Christmas, which includes a run and a parade, and also Cocktails for Canines, which is coming up in August. Right?
It is August the 4th, and so I was happy to come today to kind of just let people know about the event for those who have not heard of it before. It is probably one of the largest fundraisers for the Berkeley County Humane Society, and it started to take the place originally. It took the place of the Hillbilly Daylily Bloomin' Bash that they used to have. So we kind of came up with an event that we thought that would appeal to the public at large. It's an all-inclusive event. You buy a ticket, it gets you in the door. There's unlimited wine, beer, food, music, DJ, silent auction items. It's a really, really great time.
Awesome. Okay, so what time does it get underway? Give us all the key.
It is August the 4th. So it's August the 4th at 7 p.m. It goes until 11. We are selling VIP tickets this year. So that's something that's a little different. So general admission is $40 per person. You can buy a VIP ticket, which gets you early entry into a VIP pre-party. So you get to enter at 6 p.m. There's valet parking. We have specialty hors d'oeuvres for the VIP guests. We're doing signature cocktails during that hour. There's also going to be a jazz band playing that will only play during that 1 hour period. And you also receive a souvenir glass, either a wine glass or a beer pint glass for souvenirs. And we have limited amounts of those VIP tickets. So I wanted to sort of direct everyone over to either our Facebook page, Cocktails for Canines. There's a actual Facebook page as well as an event page, and then also to Eventbrite. And you can just type in Cocktails for Canines and it should bring up the event, hopefully, and you can buy tickets right there online.
How much do you typically make for Cocktails for Canines?
Our goal is, obviously it increases every single year. So the very first year, our first time out, we had the event at the shelter, and our proceeds to the shelter was $2,500.
Awesome.
In 2016, we had the event at Poorhouse Farm, and we were able to donate $7,500.
Nice.
So our goal this year is 10. That's what we're looking for. So if you are interested in possibly sponsoring the event, we have tickets available that are complimentary that go along with some of the sponsorship levels. So if you were planning on coming, maybe you have a small business or you work at a business and you are possibly thinking about coming, one of the ways that you could tie the two together is advertise by sponsoring, and we advertise the business, and then you get some complimentary tickets to come and hang out with us.
Good deal.
I just liked your Facebook page.
Thank you. It's really easy to like. There's all kinds of good stuff on there too. And there's pictures from prior events. It's a rotating event. I guess I should tell you where it is this year.
It would be helpful.
This year, Megan and Jonathan Mann have graciously donated the Boydville Inn at Martinsburg. And so we'll be turning their back garden area into a sort of Midsummer Night's Dream, if you will. So there's going to be lots of food, music, dancing, fun. It's a great time for everyone. We bring food in from all types of local restaurants that give us hors d'oeuvres and appetizers, desserts, and I just can't say enough about it. Most of the people who came the first year definitely came the second year, and I think that's why it grew so much, and we look for it to grow again this year, but there are a limited number of tickets because the venue can only hold so many people, so the tickets are limited, but we wanted to sort of direct people to make sure they buy early.
Will you be providing food?
We will.
Will you have taco pizzas there?
Will not. No.
Do you ever have taco pizzas?
I have taco pizza
because
a lot.
Sherry tells me you have the best taco pizza ever.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
We do have the best taco pizza.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey,
and cheese fries. So we have a lot of really good things.
Look at the picture on their Facebook page.
Awesome photo.
Yeah.
Who are those
Best
guys?
pick ever.
There's two monkeys
Two-
there. There you go.
No.
Thank you, though. That was nice of you to do that.
Well, I wanted to I wanted hopefully that people would listen, and if they had any questions, obviously there's all types of links to be able to message us, and there's phone numbers and things for people to be able to call if they're interested in either ticket information or possibly setting up as a vendor. We do have a couple of artists that set up, and there's stuff to buy.
And Cocktails for Canines is where you find out more.
To support the Berkeley County Humane Society.
All right, real quick, what is Gilligan's Island Pie?
It is chocolate, caramel, pecans, and coconut that is made into a brownie-shaped form, served warm with a big scoop of vanilla ice cream and chocolate and caramel sauce on top.
And that's a graham cracker crust?
It is a graham cracker crust. It's deliciousness.
For sale at the Pizza Oven in South Berkeley County.
Yes.
That is way
Along with
good.
taco pizza, right.
Maybe next time you come in, I'm just saying.
All right.
Just saying.
When I'm back in July,
We're shameless about this kind of. Yeah, don't leave before we schedule that event.
Yes.
Okay?
Well.
Hey, it's 9 o'clock. Sheriff Curtis Keller will join us after the news break. This is Talk Radio WRNR Martinsburg. Remember, Cocktails for Canines.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Zoom Video Conferencing.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. Journalists will be the witnesses as North Korea stages what it says will be the destruction of its nuclear weapons testing site. CBS's Ben Tracy is the only U.S. broadcast network news correspondent making the 16-hour trek by train, bus, and foot to Punggye.
We're expecting them to do some sort of explosion, so they're going to want to keep us away from that. Too, there also is obviously a concern of radiation. We don't know what's gone on at this site. We don't know what kind of leakage there is. And so as much as you want to see it as close as you can, you also have to be pretty careful about what you're dealing with.
I'm Stephen Portnoy at the White House, where today the president sits with his South Korean counterpart. That meeting comes about a week after Pyongyang began to send negative signals about next month's scheduled sit-down between Kim Jong-un and the American president. The White House insists that planning for the summit continues, but analysts worry Mr. Trump has focused too much on the idea of a historic meeting and that he hasn't spent enough time preparing for a detailed negotiation.
4 days after the deadly shootings at a high school near Houston, Texas Governor Greg Abbott hosts a roundtable discussion with parents, students, and advocates from both sides of the gun debate. CBS's Omar Villafranca from Santa Fe.
A lot of people are watching this because, one, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has an A+ rating from the NRA. Texas is a red state, so if anything's going to be done, a lot of states are looking to see if Texas is going to do anything.
His father says 17-year-old Demetrios Pagorchis had been bullied at school. Police in Baltimore say they arrested a 16-year-old right after a police officer was shot, responding to reports of a suspicious vehicle. She died later at the hospital. Police aren't saying why they didn't announce the arrest until this morning. A manhunt is still on for 3 other suspects. 6 women are suing the University of Southern California. They say they were sexually abused by a college gynecologist. Live to CBS's Vicki Barker.
Among other things, the women allege Dr. George Tyndall touched their breasts, groped them, or made lewd remarks while treating them, and that USC ignored complaints from other clinic staff that could have stopped the alleged abuse years ago. The 71-year-old Tyndall worked at USC for nearly 3 decades. Administrators have acknowledged they had reports of misconduct dating back at least 2 decades. Deborah?
Victims of pedophile priests hailing the conviction of an Australian archbishop.
It's a decision that will hopefully unravel the hypocrisy, the deceit, and the abuse of power and trust.
Philip Wilson faces up to 2 years in prison for covering up child sex abuse by a fellow priest. S&P futures up 4. This is CBS News.
Zoom Video Conferencing, featuring video and audio clarity with screen sharing. Free accounts are available at zoom.us. That's zoom.us. Zoom Video Conferencing.
Guess what? Right now is the perfect time to tackle those home projects you've been putting off. So come summertime, you can just sit back and relax. Home Advisor can help get you started. Home Advisor matches you to the right pro for the job in seconds. You can read reviews and even book appointments online. Home Advisor can help with any home project, big or small, painting, plumbing, even remodeling. Find a great pro now before the busy season hits. Go to homeadvisor.com or download the free app.
Home Advisor.
It's time to join the millions of people using Zoom video conferencing. Turn any size conference room, huddle room, or executive office into a Zoom room with flawless HD video, crystal clear audio, and instant wireless sharing. It'll even work with your existing hardware. Start your meetings with a single touch or use Zoom's new voice command feature. Hey Zoom, start meeting. Huddle happy. Visit zoom.us to set up your free Zoom room trial today. That's zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing.
Now your local news from Talk Radio WRNR. Both 36-year-old David Smeltzer of Bunker Hill and 33-year-old Shauna Thomas of Martinsburg were sentenced Monday to a combined 42 months in prison for their roles in a heroin distribution operation. That's according to U.S. Attorney Bill Powell. Smeltzer got 18 months after pleading guilty to one count of aiding and abetting the distribution of heroin in February of this year. Thomas was given 2 years after pleading guilty to one count of distribution of heroin back in February. Martinsburg High School's graduation will take place tonight at 7. Hedgesville's graduation will be tomorrow night at 7. And Musselman's graduation will be at 7 p.m. on Thursday. As for Spring Mills High School, their graduation will be next Tuesday night at 7. Martinsburg once again has the highest gasoline price this week of the West Virginia metro area surveyed for the AAA East Central fuel gauge at about $2.99 per gallon. Parkersburg has the lowest price at about $2.68. I'm Adam Boardman, Talk Radio WRNR News.
Scattered showers across Berkeley, Jefferson, and Morgan counties here this morning, and the frequency of showers will increase as we go through the morning into the afternoon. In fact, we may hear a little thunder with our showers here into the afternoon as a warm front crosses the area. Temperature highs getting up close to 80 degrees by the end of the day, and we'll see the showers coming to an end through the late afternoon, early evening period. Temperatures overnight only dropping off into the lower 60s, and with lots of sunshine developing tomorrow, we've got highs in the lower 80s. Thursday, more of the same, sunny, daytime high near 83 degrees. I'm Bob Kukin, Talk Radio WRNR.
The future doesn't wait. Why should you? Blue Ridge Community and Technical College offers over 50 degree and certificate programs in education, IT, culinary arts, engineering, and so much more. Small class sizes, flexible schedules with evening and online classes, with affordable tuition, plus financial aid is available to those who qualify. Now you can go to college. Visit us online at blueridgectc.edu. That's blueridgectc.edu. Stop waiting and enroll today.
It's that time of year again. I'm Ron Springer, head golf professional at the Woods, and I'm excited to announce the second annual Tournament of Champions on October 5th. Want to dethrone the 2017 champs? Now's the time to enter your team into one of the many qualifying tournaments here at the Woods. Not only can you win more money for your sponsoring organization, you can also win great prizes for you and your teammates. For a list of qualifying tournaments, see ads in the Journal, around the Panhandle, and at thewoods.com. It's on.
I'm Matt Miller. I'm Matt Crawford. We may share the same name, but that doesn't mean we always share the same opinions. Because I believe in my guy! Because 70% of the time I'm going to get him out! This time he got the better of us and hit a home run. Congratulations, Bryce Harper. Now shut up and let's play tomorrow, because that's what baseball does. Pitch to him!
You know what fixes intentionally walking guys? If everybody around him is hitting the ball.
Listen to their take on sports weekday evenings at 5 p.m. on Miller Time on Talk Radio WRNR, the Panhandle Sports radio station.
Welcome back to the program, Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave, brought to you in this segment by Bechtel Jewelers, West Virginia's largest Pandora retailer. Rudy live in South Inwood, next to Viva Mexico. Good to see Amy Peters. Even better to see Amy Peters when she's bearing a pizza, Dave.
We do like to be fed around here, that's true. Yeah, that was really nice of her to do that. Great Facebook page she has, Cocktails for Canines. What a nice event that must be, especially where it's being held at Boydville, and so encourage you all to get out for that.
You really wouldn't think dogs would drink that much either. But
no, you wouldn't. I've heard some dogs, especially some of the half-breeds and all that, they do have a drinking problem more than the pedigree dogs, I hear.
They say it's not good.
That's fake news, by the way.
To give your dog beer, but I know a few people that would pour beer, and the dog would drink it, lap with it, well, the whole thing.
He probably learned that at home.
Yeah.
If his master's drinking a lot of beer, then the dog figures, why not?
Dumps him in the bowl, I guess. I don't recommend that myself, and I'm sure Amy would cringe listening to me mention that, but just saying.
Yeah, well.
Next time she comes in, though, it's going to be that Gilligan's Island pie.
You think?
Did you hear that description of the Gilligan's Island pie? Goodness.
Man. I would imagine that she would probably... I bet she brings one in. I bet she brings a couple pieces in. That would be my guess.
It'd be tasty. And now it would
Of course, I missed the pizza, though.
It would appear now that the Berkeley County Sheriff's Department could actually afford to go and get some of that pie because their pay plan, at least part of it anyway, the raise, has been approved by the county council, as I gather. We've asked Sheriff Curtis Keller and his deputy Scott Wilson, Chief Scott Wilson, to come in with them as well. And we say good morning to you, gentlemen. Thanks so much for being here today.
Good morning, Rob.
Pull that mic over so you don't have to crane your neck there, Curtis. Get it in front of you so you're nice and square on it. Excellent.
How's that?
Excellent.
Great to see you guys.
Good to be here.
Good to be here.
Yeah. So when we talked to you, I'm guessing about almost 6 months ago, you had an idea for a pay plan to try to, among other things, bring the deputy pay plan up so you can stay competitive and not lose as many of your deputies to bordering jurisdictions. And I don't know that it was a surprise to you, but it was kind of a surprise to me that actually you got some of your plan through. Did you get everything that you wanted, or did you get was it maybe you leave a little on the table there?
Rob, I'll let the chief talk about that. He's the one that was the brainstorm behind all the pay increase and everything. We discussed what we wanted to do. He put it together so he can talk on that more than what I can.
Chief Scott Wilson, I saw 14% pay raise was approved by the county council. Is that accurate?
The pay raise plan was set up on different steps and different moves along the way. It starts out with a good increase on the basic scale, and then it has 5% increases. It reduces to 3% increases, and then 2% increases over the period of 20 years. The original plan we had submitted, we tried to make as comparable as we could to the local law enforcement agencies, using Martinsburg Police Department as a model to go by. And when we did talk with the council back in around January timeframe, we had looked about a 3% across the board. When they finally sat down and talked with the Deputy Sheriff's Association, they worked it out over a progressive scale, and that's why we got the 5%, 3%, 2%. In the end, it comes out to almost exactly the same as the 3% across the board. So we got very, very close to what we were asking for from the beginning. Yes, sir.
This enables you to hire a new deputy at what salary, Scott?
Well, that's one thing. It helped bring our starting salary up by $4,000 a year.
That's significant.
It took it from $35,500 to $39,500, which is a great increase, and it does help with an incentive to draw people in. The work that was done on that plan gave the deputies something to look at for over 7 years. The first 7 years, they'll see increases anywhere from 1 year to the maximum of 2 years apart. So in the course of 7 years, their salaries will increase almost $10,000. That's a great incentive to bring somebody in, but it's also an even better incentive to keep people on board.
So after 7 years, they're pushing $50,000.
That's correct.
Yes.
They'll be making somewhere right around 50, I think it's 57.5, 57.6, something like that. So it's almost a $10,000 increase.
So that begins to have a ring of a decent pay raise to it, or a decent salary. Is it competitive with Maryland and Virginia?
Well, when you start getting into Maryland and Virginia, no, we're not as real competitive with them as we'd like to be. Their tax base allows them to do a lot better. So what we try to do is try to stay competitive with just local. It brings us a lot better, a lot more closer to Martinsburg PD. They still have a better scale, but we're a lot closer than we was before. So the whole thing with this particular plan is that the fact that the council recognized the needs, they worked together with everybody. We made this thing come up, and now everybody's a deputy sheriff in Berkeley County has a future. Before they had no future. They came in at a certain pay scale, and if they didn't make rank or a cost of living raise wasn't given, then they wouldn't change. And we had that with a particular deputy. There 15 years, and he was making the same amount of money as was when he came in 15 years ago, and the same amount of money that a brand new deputy comes in. So now they have a future, a life.
What has that done to morale with the deputies? Is it do you see an improvement there? Were they excited about what was going on and the efforts that you guys made?
They were very excited about that. When they came out of the session that day, when the council voted on that, they were happy. You could see a lot of them took a big sigh of relief, and some of them even said, I can get some sleep now because it was worrying them. So yeah, it made a big difference in their morale and the way they see things. And you could see that over the couple of days right after that. They were out, they were beating the streets pretty hard, making a lot of arrests. It was a great big thing for them to gain this. It was a big win for them, and they're very happy about it.
Did you just make a connection, Chief, between public safety and giving deputies a pay raise? I'm just
no, sir. Public safety is always
laying it out there.
But incentives always help you. You reach deep down inside and you find little things to get you going and make you do better. And sometimes a little bit of pay increase helps you.
Okay.
Refocus.
Just wanted to make sure. I'm making $5,000 more now, so I'm going to pull over 5 more cars today.
Oh no, there's no quotas and no money on something like that. No.
I know you guys avoid that quota word like the plague. I got you.
Yes, sir.
Well, how much input was taken from the deputies towards putting this pay system together?
We've been working on this system since we came in this administration in January 1, 2017. That was the sheriff's focus even during his campaign. About September of last year, deputies started funneling information to me, the things that they would gather. They would gather pay scales, and then I started talking with some deputies that would come to my office and sit down, and we'd have conversations. We'd knock heads a little bit, but we kept moving forward. So there was a great deal of input. When the sheriff and I were talking with the council, we got to a point where we stalled a little bit. We couldn't get to where we needed to be. So the Deputy Sheriff's Association, they picked up the calls and they started getting involved, and they were able to sit down with the council and finalize the thing out. They would talk with us every day after their meetings. They would share with us what they were looking at. They would get information from us. So it was a work in progress for over a year, and it's been part, not just one or two people. There's been a lot of people involved in this.
And I'm sorry, I'll go ahead.
I was going to say, does the additional salary mean an increased sheriff's department budget, or do you have to reallocate funds from another part of your budget to cover the increased salaries?
It begins by taking funds that we had in excess and moving them into the line items to meet the increase, because it is an increase. It's an increase of about $409,000 a year. Mm-hmm. We pick that up from the beginning using the excess monies, but the council will pick up the rest of that as it goes on. So it started out with using monies that was there available to us out of his budget, and then we'll move forward from there.
Dave?
Sheriff, I'm interested. Scott says you've been on the job since January 2017, so I'm thinking it's roughly a year and a half into a 4-year term. Have you reached that point now where you can look back and say, this job, I thought I was running for one thing, but once I got the job, it became something else? That would only be natural that would happen in any job that you run for. What's the biggest difference between what you thought the job was like and what the job has now turned out to be?
Well, I noticed more politics involved in it. We set a goal when we talked to the public back when I was running. They had goals that they want to see us do. And when we took office, we started working on those goals. Of course, we got railroaded right off the bat with several issues from the past administration. So we had to clear all that up and deal with what we're dealing with now. But we couldn't really start because the main goal or the main problem was personnel at that point in time. So we had to deal with all that. We were working on salaries, and we also were working on vehicles for the guys and a lot of other issues that we had seen and the public had told us about.
The topic of technology, we've talked a lot with the Martinsburg Police Department chief and deputy chief about this topic as well. Are you up to where you want to be with technology, all of the technology that's available for law enforcement officials out there? And if not, is there a wish list or a laundry list of things you'd like to get to equip your deputy sheriffs with?
Well, right off the bat, I can tell you that when we come in, Gary Wine, the IT director, told us that within 6 months we'd have iPads in our cars. It's been a year and a half. We're still waiting on them. The technology's there. We're getting it. We're developing it or working with Gary on it, but we haven't got it yet. But we're working every day on technology. I met with the chief. We want to order some stuff that's going to better our department that way also.
What would the iPads allow you to do in the car that you cannot currently do, Curtis?
The iPads is going to allow the officers actually to stay out in the field. They can do their work right in the field in the car.
Take care of the administrative work.
Yes.
I see.
Yes. They won't have to come in the office and do reports. They can actually do them in the field on the iPad.
Very nice. We're talking with Sheriff Curtis Keller and his Chief Scott Wilson here on Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Davey. A question for either of these gentlemen, 304-263-6540 and 304-263-6586 is how you get through. What date do the raises kick in? Is that a July 1?
June the 1st.
June 1.
Yes, June the 1st.
Well, that's not far away at
They'll
all.
see their first raise June the 15th. Is that right?
That's correct, sir.
Yeah,
June 15th. All right, very good. Were there any other changes that were made to the compensation plan, benefits-wise or otherwise? Is it strictly a salary increase?
It's just strictly salary at this point in time. The insurance and everything is going to stay the same for the time being.
The county doesn't use PEIA, correct? You have your own?
Yes, they have their own.
They have, right, okay.
Yes.
The one thing you'll see on that salary increase is because they decided to make it 2% at the last two phases, that does help any deputy sheriff that's retiring with their retirement, because boy, the retirement system is based upon your 3 best years out of your last 5 is what your retirement pay will be based off of. So by originally they had asked for a 1% increase, and we asked them to reconsider, and they did, and they made a 2% increase. That now helps them with the retirement. So yes, it was a salary plan, but it does help with the retirement as well.
If you are on the job past a certain number of years, are you locked into that salary, or is there still the ability to have the step increase every 3 or 5 years?
The step plan, I don't like to use the term step plan. We run into a lot of issues with that. The compensation scale. The compensation scale has different phases. The last phase starts at 19 years. At that point in time, that is a maximum. So the only thing you'd see after that point would be any cost of living increase.
How often does the county give a cost of living increase?
That's based upon the economy and the monies that are available, so there's no set time on that. However, the council did, in agreement with the Deputy Sheriff's Association, when they talked about this compensation scale, they said that they would meet periodically. We haven't defined that yet, but I would say probably about every 2 to 3 years they will meet, look at the scale, see if there's been any major increases, and maybe they need to change the numbers.
The floods that hit our area last week certainly created some issues with roads. I think at least 7 or 8 were closed at any given time. I know in Jefferson County yesterday they still had some roads that were closed. What did you folks observe as you guys were out on the county roads, and some of those were not in the best of shape at times? What was your experience this past week?
We work closely with Eddie Gokenauer, the OES.
And we had Eddie in
director,
yesterday.
Yeah, and we kept in close touch with him. Our deputies were out looking at roads and checking everything out for OES and relaying back to him of the closures, the needs that needs to be addressed with the trees down, the roads being flooded like that. So we work close with him.
You know, this calendar year, to kind of go a different direction here, but I really appreciate your thoughts on this general topic, because it has such tragedy to it. We've just seen last Friday our 7th school shooting in the United States. And I know that's as law enforcement officials, when you wake up in the morning, you hear something like that, I can't even imagine what must go through your head. Not only tremendous sadness, obviously, but you must live with that nagging thought. It could happen anywhere. I mean, that we hear that all the time. I'm interested in your thoughts generally as to what kind of training your guys and gals go through in terms of dealing with active shooter situations, and any kind of strategic planning that's currently underway to help make our schools just as safe as they can possibly be.
Dave, I'm glad you brought that up. We're currently doing active shooter training with all our deputies right now. We haven't broadcasted, but we're doing it. What the next class is this coming weekend or the weekend after that?
This coming weekend, that'll be the 3rd class.
That'll be the 3rd class that we went through. So we are doing the training.
And we have instructors within the department. They have been to the courses to where they got their instructor rating, and they have been conducting the classes. And I think the last time we were in here, we talked about this a little bit, because we'd said about we was going to be doing some training. So we finally were able to get everything together, and we've put through a large portion of the department through that training. We'll finish up this coming weekend, but it won't stop there. Our instructors need to be recertified, so we have to look at recertification in the fall, and that means there's probably going to be updated information information, new training procedures. So we'll conduct training again with all of our personnel to try to keep them up to date.
That's good to know. It's really good to know. What kind of presence is there at the schools presently in terms of law enforcement presence at the schools while school's in session?
We have 3 SRO officers assigned to the high schools, Spring Mills, Hedgesville, Musselman. We also have the road deputies periodically checking in with the outlying schools, the intermediate schools, the kindergarten schools. They stop in to see what's going on. And we have a close relationship with Manny to meet his needs, and whatever he needs or he feels he needs for us to do, we try to accomplish that.
Manny being Manny Arvon, Superintendent of Schools in
correct.
Berkeley County. What's the answer to keeping the schools safe? Curtis, Scott, do we need to go to metal detectors in each school, screen the kids as they go in, lock the doors and inspect the bags? I mean, it's not going to happen in this country that we confiscate every single gun and get it off the street. It's just not going to happen.
That can't happen.
So what's the answer then?
More security, more send the people in one way in, not have a bunch of doors, one way in. They're checked before they go in. The doors are locked, like you said, when they're in there. And that way, if something would happen, the chances of it happening would be a little bit less because you're checking them before they go in. Now, you're going to run into a problem with the parents and the school kids. Well, it takes longer to go through the metal detectors, all this, that, and the other. You're going to hear that side of it. But the main focus would be that's the way you eliminate your threats that way.
Of course, one of the patterns that we've seen lately is that so many of these shooters are one of the students themselves, and so that brings in to maybe some spotlight the whole topic of making sure that the kids aren't mentally unstable, or if there's something wrong with one of the kids that could pull this off. I mean, I don't even know how you address that, but it's not been like adults walking into a school and doing these shootings. In many cases, it's one of the kids themselves.
Anything that you do, nothing's going to be perfect. Nothing's going to answer the question and make everything safe and secure. It's a combination of things. You can use technology to help you. You can put additional manpower in. There will always be upsides of it, and there's going to be downfalls. Just like what the sheriff said, it's going to be delays, which is going to aggravate and upset people. What it boils down to is every individual themselves have got to learn to they understand what the rules are. Then don't be bringing things that that could be a potential problem. But also, if you have someone, it's your best friend or somebody in school that you think is having problems, you got to identify that. And that's always the problem, even with schools and with mental hygiene issues in the county. People don't want to get involved in those things. They don't want to be the person that says, well, I think this person's having a problem.
They don't want to be the rat or whatever.
That's correct, sir. Yep.
So do you all, or does a school official, someone, conduct, let's say, assemblies or classroom sessions with the students presently in Berkeley County to maybe train them to identify odd behavior amongst their classmates? Have we got to that level yet to educate them on what it is they could be looking out for?
We've not done any training like that with the schools specifically. The schools do some trainings and stuff on their system. The SROs are there available to help with them, but that would be an issue that really the schools sit down and we can sit down with them, and maybe there's something more that we can do to help in those processes.
Should certain teachers on a voluntary basis get advanced training and be allowed to be armed while in school?
I don't think.
Talk about a political hot potato, huh, Scott? Well, you got that look on your face like, oh, Rob, I really don't want to go there.
I'm not an advocate of teachers having weapons in schools. Okay, you're bringing something to school. You're taking a person. That's not their focus. Their focus is to educate our youth and make them better prepared for society. Asking them to take on that responsibility, I don't think it's fair to ask of them, and it would be something that would be an additional type duty for them, not their focus like it is for law enforcement. I think that's more of a disaster waiting to happen than it is a solution to the problem.
Curtis, you're shaking your head. Yes.
Yeah, and plus, a teacher's there to, take care of the kids. They're not there to address issues that come up, within the school. When something like that happens, the kids are going to look at their teacher. What do we do? And if they're out running around trying to stop a threat, then they're not in my opinion, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Should we supplement the SROs who are maybe you're at a 1,400 person high school and you have one SRO? Obviously, a campus that can fit 1,400 students is going to be big enough that if trouble breaks out, it may be difficult for the SRO to get there in time. Should there be additional volunteers? I think I've heard suggestions of retired policemen or retired military who are trained with weapons who would volunteer their time at schools during the day. Would that be welcome?
That would be something that I would like to sit down and maybe discuss. Yes, that would be if you got a retired military or retired police officer, that would maybe help us that way. Who's going to pay for it though?
Well, they'd be volunteers. That's what's been suggested on a national level, and there are many policemen who are retired who have said that this is something they'd be interested in.
Well, it's like the fire departments today. The volunteers are slowly phasing out. They'll do it for a while, but then it slowly phases out. That's what we're having today.
Well, you have a concern. One of the first things you have when you're talking about the schools is identifying people. So our SROs in uniform, they go inside. What are they looking for? Most likely they're looking for somebody in just plain regular clothes. We've experienced here in Berkeley County when something happens in a school, off-duty police officers or plainclothes police officers respond. Well, most of the time what they have is a badge on a chain that they plop out from underneath their shirt and put it out there. And you're in an active shooter situation. You're going down the hallways of that school and you're looking for someone that you really don't know who it is. You just know that there might be a male or a female subject with a gun. And you pop around the corner and there's a male subject in plain clothes with a gun. And it turns out to be it's another police officer, or what you're talking about, a retired police officer, retired military, someone that just goes to school. If you can't identify them, they become more of a problem or a concern in the school than they can be of help. And you don't want to shoot anybody if you can keep from it, but you sure don't want to shoot an innocent person.
Yeah, and unfortunately, too many innocent people are getting shot in our schools on what's now turning out to be a weekly and monthly basis, I guess, at times. It's not a problem that's easily solved. I know that one side of the equation is more strict gun laws, but again, unless you confiscate every single gun in this country, I don't know that you can stop what somebody who's not afraid to lose their own life will do.
Yeah, and you are narrowly focused on the law enforcement part of this, obviously, and the safety and law enforcement part of it. Do you ever think about, we wish such and such a policy would make our jobs easier or make the kids safer? If you could put something in the suggestion box at the state legislature or to the governor's office, is there a policy that you would see that should be at least considered going forward, inputting into the policy, or do we have the laws right? We're just unfortunately in a time where we're just not nationwide. I mean, getting the job done safety was obviously you guys are getting the job done here. But as we go back to the premise that something tragic like this could happen really in any community.
Well, again, we're trying to look for the simple answer, and there isn't a simple answer. Is there legislature that could be changed? There's possibly some things that could change. Is there other issues, technology? There's so many different pieces. I don't think there's any one piece that's going to answer this question. It's going to take a multitude.
Yeah, and the reason that I asked the question, I expressed this to Rob yesterday when we were talking as well, and what frustrates me is that I went out to lunch last Friday met a friend in Virginia, lifetime friend of mine, who happens to be an advocate for, let's say, left politics. So he and I get into robust discussions about practically everything. And then I talked to, over the weekend, a friend who is quite the mere opposite of him in his politics. And neither one of them, if they're, representing their sides, if you will, adequately, and I think they are, no one's willing to budge on anything. I mean, if you are over on this side, a constitutional rights gun, advocate, and over on this side, you're the Australia, UK model, let's take everybody's guns away. No one seems to want to meet in the middle on this issue, and that's what makes it so frustrating to a lot of us.
Yes, sir. You're exactly right, because it isn't a simple answer. It's going to take everybody sitting down to take a deep breath and try to take both sides, see where we can meet in the middle and make something work.
Well, at the end of the day, you guys, I'm glad that you're going to the training, keeping our schools as safe as they can be. That's just got to be on your mind all the time.
It is. It really is. And, we need to look at more secure schools. One way in, one way out with the students. Put them through a metal detector. Put them through something. That way you can monitor them.
Curtis Keller, Scott Wilson, thanks so much for coming by today.
Yes, sir.
Great to
Thank
see you
you
guys again from the Berkeley County Sheriff's Department at 9:33.
Last night, a little angel came pumping on my floor. He said, "Come, baby, got a license for love."
Since 1877, Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies have proudly supported our local community. Farmers and Mechanics has the insurance products to meet your needs, including home, auto, farm, dwelling fire, business owners, and umbrella coverage. Please contact your local independent agency for a review of your insurance needs and ask for a policy from the company that knows you best. Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies, just off Edwin Miller Boulevard on Administrative Drive in Martinsburg. FMIWV.com.
The Wellness Center at Berkeley Medical Center introduces a healthy way of life. It's not just another diet, but a weight management program developed by the Wellness Center that includes metabolic testing, a simple 10-minute breathing test that determines how many calories your body actually needs, followed by working one-on-one with a health coach to develop a personalized mix of exercise and nutrition to tip the scales in your favor towards successful weight loss. A lifetime of good health awaits at the Wellness Center. For more info, call 304-264-1232.
The Honda Memorial Day sales event has brilliant deals on our most popular vehicles, like the Civic, Fit, and Pilot. It's the perfect way to start summer across America. From the Liberty Bell to Hollywood, and even back up to Niagara Falls. So start your summer with the 2018 KBB.com Best Overall Brand during the Honda Memorial Day sales event. Now at your Honda dealer.
Miller Honda South of Winchester, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. www.mymillerhonda.com.
Based on 2018 brand image awards from Kelly Blue Book. Visit KBB.com for more information.
L.A. Roberts is Berkeley County's oldest jeweler, where every season is new and exciting. In fact, new is old school to us, and though it's nothing new, our old traditions like exceptional service, quality, and value maintain L.A. Roberts Jewelers as the old master among so many new kids on the block. Whether you're a newcomer or part of the old guard, entrust all your fine jewelry needs to L.A. Roberts, Old World Jewelers for a new age, in historic downtown Martinsburg. Welcome back to the program, Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave on Tuesday, brought to you in this segment by the Brown Funeral Homes and Cremations. Robert Fields and Sons, a family-owned, full-service funeral home proudly serving our area since 1880. Big thanks to the Sheriff, Curtis Keller, and his Chief, Scott Wilson, for coming in studio in this last segment, and congratulations to the deputies out there who've put in their time and earned the raise that they've finally been given thanks to the plan put together by Chief Scott Wilson and okayed by the Berkeley County Council, potential 14% raise, as I remember reading the story.
Yeah, the Martinsburg police levy passed with 76%. The sheriff deputies have just all gotten a pretty good raise. The teachers have gotten their raise. So there seems to be out there in the public, out there in voter land these days, at least a sensitivity to paying public employees more than we've been paying them in the past.
Well, I think that points toward better economic times. And as you can see, the stock market futures today, we're up over, it's open now, but 7 to 8 minutes ago, futures for the Dow were up over 300 points. And you see increase in home values. Building permits are higher than the number issued are higher than they've been in 10 years. So you're seeing more money flowing into the economy now. And as a result, there's a little bit more money to spend, and that's typically when public sector employees are able to get a raise. So you get it while you can, because when it turns down, and it's cyclical, it always does after so many years, you're not going to get a raise during those times. So we bring
unless there's not a direct correlation to higher taxes, which I still think most voters are against having their property tax or any kind of tax raised. Well, politically, that seems to still work out there, but at some point in time.
But you can pay more taxes by having your home values increase.
Well, that's true.
Well, your assessment goes up.
If your assessment goes up,
your house is worth more. You pay a little bit more.
You don't have to raise the rate.
And it's something, in Maryland, they held the governor's debate in the primary on the Democrat side. Maryland has a Republican governor. It happens about once every, generation or so.
Whether it's a
Maryland gets
Republican elected statewide?
Yeah, in Maryland, yeah.
Hardly. Like Massachusetts, it just rarely happens.
Right now, Larry Hogan is the governor, and there were 4 Democrats having a debate, and wouldn't you know it, as the debate went on, the first question asked was about tax increases, and they still don't get it. One of the 4, right off the bat, said, yes, I would raise taxes 1% on the top 1%. So they still just don't get it on the Democrat side. People are just tired of having their taxes raised. And I know just tax the richest people out there. I know that's the easiest thing to say, but anytime you raise taxes on anybody, it has a consequence.
Well, what you have in these primaries too, Rob, is, and I think we've just witnessed this in the Republican primary for U.S. Senate. On the Republican side, you oftentimes have in their primaries a kind of a race to the right. Who can be the most conservative? Because that's the voting base in the Republican side are the most conservative voters. Moderates don't vote that in great numbers in the Republican primary. On the Democratic side, you have oftentimes a race to the left. So that one guy who said, hey, I'd raise taxes, on the wealthy, he might win. Because depending on voter turnout, but in voter turnout in a Democratic primary in Maryland, that might be an issue that sets him apart. He'll have to deal with that in the general, but it might be enough to get him the primary win.
Mike Hite is with Rotary, and we're talking pancakes right now, Memorial Day. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Rob. Morning, Dave.
Who eats more pancakes, Republicans or Democrats?
I think it's equal across the board. Everybody likes pancakes.
Pancakes is one of those things that brings everyone together.
Brings everyone together.
It's like pizza. It's like pizza.
It's nonpartisan.
Yeah,
the pancake party should be a new party.
You get a lot of people would join that one.
It's like the Capitals in Washington right now. It doesn't matter. Everyone. I mean, Rob's a Pittsburgh fan, but everyone in Washington so excited about the Caps. And I remember a couple of years ago, the Nats almost made it into the World Series. Same thing. It's just some things allow us for a moment to say, you know what. Politics doesn't matter here. We're not that divided.
And I've become a Caps fan here recently as well. I've always been a Caps fan, but because of their history, you just don't follow them.
I'm right with you.
But past history is they're sort of like the Mountaineers. They just find a way to let you down. And I thought that this was going to be just like this. They go up.
You're picking on all WRNR's teams here.
I am, but they go up 2-0 in this series, and then all of a sudden the Lightning come back and win 3 in a row, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, here we go again. And then last night, thank goodness they got another game and take it to a game.
They're just
well, that's what I'm thinking. Right? This they're going to find a way to let me down again.
Most of my relatives in both my mom and dad's side of the family live in Las Vegas, Nevada, where I was born. But they didn't leave. They still live there, and so generations of them, and they're all incredibly excited about the hockey team in Las Vegas. The first year, right?
First year.
And I want to punch them all out. They don't get it, Some cities have waited a generation.
You have to have years of misery before this happens.
It's just not right.
And for a lot of Caps fan as well, that I think they've already had their Stanley Cup. It was the last series when they got past Pittsburgh. So, I mean, it seems like they could never get past Pittsburgh. So when they did, it was like, hey, no matter what, we've won. This was a winning season. We got past Pittsburgh.
Well, one more win and you get a chance for the Stanley Cup. But as you know, as a Caps fan, I think you're just being set up for that final heartbreak.
Don't say that.
That goes with the Caps. The Memorial Day morning is when the pancake breakfast takes place. And what are the specifics here, Mike?
Well, the Rotary Club of Martinsburg puts on a free pancake breakfast every year. We've been doing it for about 8 years now out at War Memorial Park. It's to try to raise money to eradicate polio. It starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. It says a lot of our brochures and flyers and everything says till 11, but I will let you know that the Memorial Day services out at the park start at 11 as well. So we try to wrap everything up by, let's say, 10:30, so we can get going there. So we don't interrupt the services. So, but like I said, we've been doing it for about 8 years. It's been very popular. We serve over 600 people.
Oh my!
That morning,
lots of people like pancakes.
But we get a lot of great support. It's a fun day. A lot of people like coming out and flipping pancakes and serving people. So it's a good event for us.
Is there a difference between a pancake and a flapjack, or is it just the same?
Or a hot cake?
or a hot
I
cake?
think it's just a different word for the same thing.
It's the same thing.
And, pancakes are made in different ways. So, I mean, I grew up on this sort of like a Dutch-style pancake where it was very flat and thin, not very fluffy at all. And the syrup was not absorbed into the cake itself. But yet you go to a lot of places and you get the big fluffy pancakes and it sucks up the syrup and stuff. So I prefer the thinner ones.
Are there waffle people and pancake people, do you think? Do you divide along the way, like tea and coffee, waffle and pancake?
Yeah, I'm sure there are some out there. I enjoy both of them, actually.
You're non-discriminatory when it comes to that.
When you throw syrup on it, I like it.
Little butter.
Do you guys have a waffle iron at home?
I do
Either one of
not.
you?
My grandmother had a waffle
My
iron.
mom, in the home I grew up in,
Yeah.
we oftentimes made them. We had the waffle iron. Mom would make them. But in my adult life, I don't think I have ever owned a waffle iron because you can go buy them and put them in the toaster.
Right. And they're nowhere near as good.
Nowhere near as good.
We do. We've had one since my kids were little, so probably about 15, 20 years. We have a little Scooby-Doo waffle iron.
Yeah.
It makes a face of
Of
Scooby-Doo.
course.
So, I mean, and I have grandkids now, so they come over to get their Scooby-Doo waffles.
It makes you a hit with the grandchildren.
Well, it makes their Mimi a hit.
What's your name?
I'm Pappy.
Pappy and Mimi?
Pappy and Mimi, yeah.
He's Boppy.
I'm Boppy.
Poppy.
B-O-P-P. Yeah.
The big bopper.
Yeah, my granddaughter, who was on the show last week, almost 21 years old, she's the one who named me when she was little because she couldn't say Pappy. She said Boppy. I said, I like that even better. We'll take that name.
She even called you Bop when she was here to say goodbye. She'd say, goodbye, Bop.
Sure. Yeah, I have friends. I have some friends. Chris Strobel, for example, always calls me Boppy. All his kids call me Bop, so it's just got stuck with it. So
It's taken on a life of its own.
All my kids call me that. Yeah.
The Rob and Bop show.
I thought
right.
I thought it was. It's interesting. I thought it was the absolute most original grandfather name I could think of, and then sometime after, it was a few years afterwards, I was reading either an article or a book about Richard Nixon. And believe it or not, that was his grandfather's name as well, Bob.
Wow.
Yeah. So there you go. I share something in common with Tricky Dick.
With the great Richard Nixon.
Yep. There you go.
Excellent.
Matt Miller says the Pancake Breakfast is a great event. We go about 10 a.m. and enjoy breakfast and hanging out with people leading into the Memorial Day services, which we should never forget.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a good segue into that. So come out and have some pancakes, but by all means, stay for the Memorial Day services. The park puts on very nice Memorial Day services.
And Steve Catlett will be here Thursday. By the way, we'll go over everything that's going on in the parks. And, of course, Memorial Day Monday is the unofficial start of summer. So the pools open on Monday in Berkeley County and everywhere else across the country. The public pools are open, and there's more drama going on with the pools. And Steve will address that later on this week, by the way.
Haven't we eradicated polio? You said this is raising money for polio, and that's interesting. Didn't we get rid of that back in the 50s? In
the United States, absolutely. Worldwide, we've eradicated polio 99.9% of the way there. It is in 3 countries right now. Nigeria a few years ago had a case pop up, and the way they measure that is once a wild polio virus case pops up, you have to be no cases at all for 3 years before you can be taken off the list. So Nigeria was off the list for a long time. A case popped up. They got put back on the list, but they haven't had a case in the past 1 or 2 years. So I'm hoping that if they don't have any more, they'll be taken off the list as well. The other 2 countries in the world are Pakistan and Afghanistan, and for obvious reasons, it's hard to get in there and immunize the kids in there just because it's a war-torn area and because you don't have, a lot of times the trust that you would hope you would have in those areas of the people going in trying to immunize. So there have been some cases. In Afghanistan, there were 7 cases just this year, and in Pakistan, 1 case this year. So 8 cases worldwide in 2018 in just those 2 countries.
And Rotary International is to be given so much credit for this over the years because they took this cause on early. Not late. I think it began.
1979 is that
when they first started?
Before that, that was their first project. So obviously
they've been instrumental in raising the funds for the research to do this job.
Not just Rotary, but a lot of credit has to go to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. they sort of came to Rotary and said, we'll do a match. Whatever you raise for polio, we'll match in dollar for dollar. And then I think Rotary went out and raised like $300 or $400 million in the first year, and they were like, "Wow."
we were thinking that much.
So, but since
they've
then,
got it though.
The Gates Foundation has since then said they would do a 2-to-1 match. So they're matching every dollar that Rotary raises. They're matching in funds as well. So they have been instrumental, as well as Rotary, in helping eradicate this disease.
I would like to say that I would match donations dollar for dollar up to $1. Then at that point, I've got to tap out a little less than the Gates Foundation, but nevertheless, that's impressive that they do that though. That's ringing the cash register.
Absolutely.
No matter how much you got, writing a check for $300 million still has to hurt a little bit.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Well, I have no idea.
We speculate that it's still probably a little.
When you got billions and billions and billions, I don't know. I mean, but nice. God bless him that there's something out there that they can do like that. So.
Hey, what time's the breakfast start again, sir?
It starts at 8:00. We'll be out there setting up early, so come in 8:00 and start getting your pancakes.
How much money for the pancake breakfast?
It's free. Come out. Doesn't cost you anything. We raise somewhere around $5,000 or $6,000 just through sponsorships and donations that day.
Oh, so going out and eat.
We like free.
Anything with the pancakes?
Yeah, we have some sausages and biscuits and gravy and toast, and I mean, there's all kinds.
And
of
you can go back
coffee,
and you can go back for seconds. I'm asking that for Rob just in case he goes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Eat up. $9.50.
Fire up the barbecues and the deals at the Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Memorial Day sales event. You'll get great savings up to $12,000 off a 2018 Ram 1500. Save up to $6,000 off a 2018 Cherokee. You can drive away in an all-new 2018 Journey SE for just $234 a month. How about a 2018 Jeep Compass Sport for $252 a month? Or a 2018 Dodge Durango only $389 a month. This weekend at the Memorial Day sales event, you can get a gas card for every test drive Friday through Monday and stop in Saturday from 12 to 2 for a cookout. And while you're there, check out the no money down specials at Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty on Kelly Island Road or online at millerschryslerjeep.com. Stock number 18240, stock number 18017. All payments based on approved credit, taxes, tags, and processing fees extra. See dealer for details.
Howdy, cowpokes. Your favorite cowboy again for Panhandle Printing and Design. I've been lost on the trail, and I bet you've been lost in a big box office supply store looking for help. Well, that's one of the best reasons you should depend on Panhandle Printing and Design when you need to get printing done. They'll always be willing to help answer your questions, and you won't get lost on the back 40 or the envelope aisle wondering where the help you're looking for is. At Panhandle Printing and Design, they can help with all your printing needs, with everything from design to production of stationery, envelopes, business cards, invitations, vinyl signs, banners, vehicle wraps, and large format construction plans and more. Now, if you need to find a place for printing, it's time for you to hop in the SUV and drive past the big box store and head to your one-stop printing shop where they have something for everyone. Panhandle Printing and Design at 124 North Maple Avenue in Martinsburg. Call 304-267-7400 or find them online.
October 1st, 1962 is a day I'll always remember. I was 36 years old, taking my place as host of America's most popular late-night program, The Tonight Show.
This segment of the program brought to you by the Berkeley County Health Department. We simplify, West Virginia, got to get the right line, offering public, clinical, and environmental services at 122 Waverly Court, Martinsburg. Davey, you're probably asking, why am I playing this song? The Tonight Show theme.
The Tonight Show theme. We know it after all of these years. We still know it.
It was this date in 1992. Tonight Show host Johnny Carson retired nearly 30 years after taking over the show from Jack Parr. Johnny Carson May 22, 1992, the final broadcast. Did you watch it?
Oh, of course. How many years ago would that be then?
That'd be 26.
26 years.
I remember watching that, and that is hard to believe that was 26 years
It's hard
ago.
to believe. It absolutely is.
His last show was the same night as my father-in-law's retirement dinner from the school system where he worked for 30 years. He was a principal who ended up retiring on the same night Johnny Carson did. So, oddly enough, that's how I put the two together. So my father-in-law is still alive. Johnny Carson, of course, is no longer with us. But the generation of stars, Johnny Carson's era, and I know we've had this discussion before, are stars that were so unique, they can never be replaced. We have stars today, and if you're a young person and all you've known is the generation of young people who are stars today, you think that's the standard. But I was brought up in an era where these folks could do it all. And you watched a variety show and you saw comedy, you saw acting, you saw singing, you saw dancing, and it seemed like so many of these folks could do so many things, and they all seemed to come together on the couch at Johnny Carson's place.
Well, and I think the other dynamic during that era as well, remember there were far fewer entertainment choices or genres than there are today.
True.
And so when you had only, let's say, take television, you only had three choices, CBS, NBC, and ABC. Mm-hmm. And to rise to the top of prime time in one of those three stations meant you were getting huge audiences, where now that audience is a lot more divided because there's just so many other choices. So it almost seemed easier during that era to become, as you say, an icon than it is now. There's so much more competition, not only with the different genres of music and entertainment, but just the delivery systems that you have and the vehicles that they have to deliver that entertainment out to the public. You take Johnny Carson, for example. Mm-hmm. From my ages 9 through 39, he was on every night.
Sure.
Ages 9, basically my age of awareness.
62 to 92.
Yeah, that was for 30 years, those 30 years. So where do you go? Through my elementary school years, my high school years, my college years, my early adult years, my marriage, my two children, first two children. I mean, that's what I lived through the 30 years that he was on every single night. You get kind of used to it after a while.
Who had better comic timing, whose facial expressions, and whose interviewing technique in late night television was ever better than Johnny Carson's?
Oh, well, it was masterful.
He could be funny without being mean or cruel to his guests or to the subject of his comedy, save for Wayne Newton, who would tell you he was no big fan of Johnny Carson.
I would say that if in current comedians, and I have to lay this out here, my personal preference, I think Jimmy Fallon's the funniest man alive, and I think he has many of those same techniques. In terms of being funny without being mean about it. And I like him for that. That's good that you brought that up, because I think that's one of the reasons I like Jimmy Fallon in the present day. But Johnny Carson owned it. And I think the other thing is, if you were an entertainer or even a politician, if you were any celebrity of any note, you wanted to be on that couch with Johnny Carson, because that was the pinnacle.
We had an interview with Louis Anderson, comedian Louis Anderson.
I remember that. That was like 3 years ago.
And Louis talked about what it was like to get a nod from Johnny Carson over to the couch after you finished your stand-up routine. And that was the private club, basically. If you finished your routine and Johnny brought you over to the couch, that meant you'd made it.
Now, first of all, if Johnny Carson allowed you to be on his stage, that would be the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're right. If you got the nod to come and join him afterwards, that could make a career.
It was huge. Yeah. Roseanne Barr got the nod.
Yes, she did.
Jerry Seinfeld got the nod. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of big names who got that nod.
You had to be funny, and you had to be at the top of your game in order to get that. But it was. It's hard to believe that it's been that many years since Johnny Carson, folded the tent up. And you know what? He really never reappeared, did he?
Quietly retired. I think he made one appearance on Letterman, one or two on Letterman. He made a very funny appearance where he brought out like a makeshift desk and assembled it by the guest chair that he was sitting in. It kind of brought the house down. It was
I did
very
not
funny.
see that. I'd have to go look that up.
That is
pretty funny
on YouTube there. But it was very amusing. I remember seeing that and laughing. And because, he didn't, as you said, he didn't make appearances after he was done with the night show.
He did not.
Kind of went away quietly.
And he had a sidekick all those years as well.
Ed McMahon.
Just like you.
This segment of this segment of the program brought to you this morning by the law offices of Hammer, Freddy, and Chiavatti, delivering first-rate service and results for our clients.
The third annual Circa Blue Fest, June 7th through 10th, is fun for everyone. Enjoy music from Seldom Seen, the Daryl Webb Band, Circa Blue, and many more at Harry D. Shelley Park in Martinsburg. Cost is $25 daily, $45 for the weekend, $50 for RV and tent camping, and kids are free. Bring the whole family for some great music and award-winning barbecue. The third annual Circa Blue Fest, June 7th through 10th at Harry D. Shelley Park in Martinsburg. Tickets can be purchased at brownpaperticket.com. Event will happen rain or shine. Will Greer to David Sills is a winning combination WVU fans know well.
Greer throwing toward the end zone. Ball caught, post pattern, Sills, touchdown! David Sills hauls it in.
The Mountaineers, Talk Radio WRNR, and your business is a dynamic combination like no other. Contact our station to add your company to the coverage of the great tradition of West Virginia Mountaineer football and basketball. Heard right here on Talk Radio WRNR, the Panhandle Sports radio station.
Got a text from our loyal viewer and listener, Roy. I love Johnny Carson. He was a class act, never bringing up the topic of politics in his shows, unlike today's talk shows, constantly degrading President Trump. I no longer watch any of them.
I completely agree, and it doesn't have to be Trump. I feel the same way about Barack Obama or anyone. I mean, it just gets old and disgusting after a while.
And you didn't see that in Carson's day. You could watch the show no matter what your political affiliation was.
We all thought he was funny.
It's 10 o'clock. The Glenn Beck Show is next. This is Talk Radio WRNR Martinsburg. We'll talk to you again in 22 short hours.
Is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by TerraWorks Relief.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. About 24 journalists arrived in North Korea today, where a long trek to the country's nuclear weapons testing site is about to begin. CBS's Ben Tracy is the only U.S. broadcast network news reporter there.
At some point, we will get on a train. That train ride will last about 11 hours. Then there will be a bus ride that will last for 4 hours. And finally, a 1-hour hike to the actual site itself, where we will witness it.